Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Hopefully you fell asleep somehow. Hopefully you didn't drive your car off wherever you were driving. I'm live with Greenie to talk about the pain and suffering of the life of a Boston Celtics fan right now. We were so back for a second, and we were so back when we were up 3 with like 10 seconds to go.
20 seconds, up 3 with the ball. Tatum at the line with the ability to go up 3 with 7 seconds. And you somehow do not win a game like that. Dude. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I'm almost I'm like broken. I'm like, I don't know what to say. It's another game under 30% from 3, which is like
the norm.
Physically impossible at this point. Every third game they're shooting under 30% over the last 20-something games.
Yep.
You know, you're getting mental errors from guys who were specifically brought here to not like this is all the stuff I was told Marcus, like Drew Holiday would do, and it was all Marcus Smart's fault. Like, well, that was gross. You know, you have, you know, a poor close by Jalen with a couple turnovers and a couple, you know, missed buckets. Tatum couldn't make a shot down the stretch, you know, when they really needed it. Had that wide open 3 in overtime, and just a lack of late game rebounding, which is what happens every single time they find themselves in one of these games against the Hawks. They already lost a game like this to the Hawks because of late game offensive rebounding to the same team. It's just like they're finding ways to lose as opposed to finding ways to win. And it's like, you don't want to just say it's just the shot making, because we saw against Orlando, they played the same way and the shots went in and they looked great. They had the same effort, ball movement, approach tonight, but it was back to under 30% from 3, and they just can't get out of their own way.
Ooh, yeah, it's hard to power rank the most painful moments. I think it has to be the Drew Holiday.
Just hold on to the ball, man.
Yeah.
You don't even need to, like, I don't even care that you didn't take the layup, because Okongwu was coming in. Sure. Like, that would have been a contested play, and God forbid you miss it. Then they're on the break. Like, I'm okay with you not taking the shot, but
you dribble into the corner.
They literally have to foul you. Like, you can just stay where you are and bear hug the basketball, and you win the game. You're an 80-something% free throw shooter. Even if Jalen makes that pass, right? It's not like he's not one of your better free throw shooters. So even in theory, that's not even a smart play to make had they not even turned it over. You are a good free throw shooter. Just hold on to the ball. The Sam Hauser missed dunk. I'm like, if you're Sam Hauser, you kind of got away with it tonight because Pritchard still got free throws off that.
He still got free throws in that period, but it's like, Drew Holiday shat his pants even worse than I did today, and like in a way more high leverage moment.
Crazy, because Drew had the other missed layup, and then
the other missed layup too.
You had Jalen getting stuffed by the rim on his dunk. It's just all this shit that happens to a team that's in a rut. You know what I mean? Like, when else? It's kind of like how Cornette, I think it was in the Sacramento game, or maybe it was Toronto. He like had the lob.
That was the Pelicans game.
Like, these are plays that never happen to any professional level player on earth, and they just can't escape it.
Yeah, I said after the Pelicans game, it feels like the Celtics both beat the Pelicans and beat whatever the supernatural force is that is fighting against the Celtics at the moment, because that game was similar to this Hawks game. The difference was like you didn't quite get away with it tonight. Like CJ McCollum missed the floater / Derek White dribbled it off his. He didn't even dribble it. He just dropped it off of his foot. The 5-second violation, the cornet alley. There was like 4 alley-oops in that game. You fast forward to tonight, it's like the Hauser missed dunk, the not being the Okongwu gives you the 2 missed free throws, and Cater doesn't get the rebound. People have been comparing it a lot to the 22-23 team, and like I get that because they had the hot start and they kind of been fumbling around. This stretch reminds me more of the 21-22 team in the first half, where like I'm seeing the flashes of the team that I think is good. And I'm not on full panic mode yet. I'm just like, this loss in particular was so painful because you kind of had the game won at least twice, if not 3 times, between being up 10 with like 8 minutes to go and then the lead evaporating to obviously being up 3 and Drew and then Tatum missing the free throw. Like there was almost like 3 different times you kind of choked away the game.
You lost, and then I'd say it was the same thing in overtime, right? Like you got a 3 to go up 2. What happens? You immediately have a Keita miscommunication on an Okongwu and 1. Now the momentum swung back. So it's like even in overtime, they were getting these Derek Prayer threes. They got Richard threes. Like they were making shots, but again, the Hawks missed 4 shots in overtime and got 3 offensive rebounds. Not in, and then you add in the free throw. It's just like. It's losing basketball. It's these small little, it's when things aren't going well are the things that work against you, right? Like when it rains, it pours. Like you're already dealing with the poor 3-point shooting. You found a way to still put yourself in a position to win, but yet mentally you can't, you're like playing CT basketball and can't close out. Like there's physically no explanation for like, they can play that scenario out 1,000 times and you would not get another, this was like a 1 out of 1,000 type situation.
Like if you freeze it right when Drew Holiday catches the ball, and a bookie is giving you odds on the Atlanta Hawks winning that game, it's like 10,000 to 1 just because you just don't have to do anything.
And don't do anything. Just stay where you are and hold on to the ball. Instead, you dribble to the sideline, enabled a trap and threw a low percentage pass to a guy who, fumbled it, whatever. Should he have caught the ball? I don't even know how good of a catchable pass it was, but it doesn't even matter because the situation should have never presented itself.
It's so this sucks because they lost, obviously. And I was pissed even more so because you win this game, you're actually 7-3 in your last 10. You're 6-4 in your last 10. Like people have been really hyper focused on now because it's 8-8 in your last 16. Like if you kind of start from the Raptors blowout, the good blowout, not the bad blowout. You win by 54. The Wolves game, the Rockets. It was like you can kind of paint the picture of a positive trend with some shittiness mixed in. So I was like hoping that they were going to do this.
They were 3-1 on that road trip and have gone 2-3 since. Yeah. And in their last 4 losses, they've either had a lead or were tied heading into the fourth quarter.
The fourth quarters
they are legitimately the worst fourth quarter team in basketball. And it's losing them games. It is the biggest issue with this rut and why this year feels different because they can't close out. They legitimately cannot score and they cannot get stops and they can't rebound. If you don't do those things, you find yourself in this position.
It's so weird because obviously last year it took me mentally essentially winning the title for me to finally accept the reality of the past season. Losing game 2 to the Heat, losing game 2 to the Cavs, even losing game 4 to the Mavs. They had been so good in crunch time. They had been so poised, but I wasn't fully able to just let myself accept how good they were until they finally did it. But then the first 25 games of this season, in the fourth quarters, I had this level of confidence in their execution that I didn't have the previous year. And they were proving me right through the first 20 plus games. It was even in the games that they were losing, they're getting good shots. They're confident. They know, you can just tell that they know that they're a championship team and they're built to just win pretty much every basketball game. And now that's just gone.
You can't. I don't understand how a person, and I'm the most confident person of all time with this team, and even they just are not giving you any credence of that they can figure out how to. And you know what's annoying is we saw the execution against Orlando, and what was interesting about that game is we saw overall, the rotations go back to last year, and it felt like the split was working, right? Tonight, they did that for the first half. The problem, I don't know if I want to say problem, but the issue is Tatum was so good in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Played all 12 minutes, went 4 or 5 from the field, had 14 points. He was the reason that they were, they flipped the game. So you couldn't give him that normal midway third quarter break to then have him come out and start the fourth quarter. So it was an example of the newer rotation where he now plays the entire third, which again, he was incredible. So you have to have him on the floor. Now you're starting a 6-point game where remember, Trae Young had just hit that three, that one-legged three at the buzzer to bring it within 5, right? So now you have a high leverage game. First possession, Jalen misses a bunny, they hit a 3. Then they work it, get back up to 10. Tatum comes back in, the lead drops back down to 5. So it's just like coming off a game where it looked like they figured out how to play in the fourth quarter with this new rotation. Going back to the old one, they were unable to do it tonight because Tatum had to play the whole third because of how good he was. And they had it was the same issue in the fourth quarter that has gotten them in trouble in each of their last 4 losses. You're not playing defense. You're missing bunnies. You're turning it over. You're not going to beat competent teams playing losing basketball. And then you get to overtime and we don't even see Luke Cornett. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's just a fumble.
Because what's weird is he played the first 1 minute and 14 seconds.
Right. Like I want to know, did he pull something? Did he get hurt? Because there's no way with all those Tatum mistakes that you can just continue to leave him on the floor if you had an option.
I think I'm not sure. I'm not necessarily agreeing with the decision, but I think the reason that Joe went to Cater was because they were switching with Cater because the Hawks were just killing us on the Trae Young and Dyson Daniels pick and roll with the floater in that Luke Cornett drop coverage. And then I'm like, okay, so then, it almost burnt them. So if you remember that play, Cater was ISO'd on Trae Young and Jalen came over
to help him.
And by the way, Jalen survived that one because
that's what I would need to know. Was that someone's to blame there. Either that was the coaching instruction, which I can't say I love considering DeAndre Hunter is a 40% shooter. He missed, but process over result, or was that Jalen gambling in that moment almost to a dire circumstance? Either option is not great, but I'd love to know what it was.
Because then in the because Pritchard closed the overtime too, and Cater again was ISO'd on Trae, and Pritchard came but it was later. It was 5 seconds on the shot clock, where it was if he did make a pass, it was going to be sped up. Trae Young ended up missing it.
And that's when that Tatum they almost got the offensive rebound, and again Tatum got it, but then they fumbled. Obviously,
yes. You think he stepped out of bounds? Maybe, I don't know. So I don't know. I think that's why he went to Cater because Dyson Daniels and Trae Young, I don't know what they shot on floaters, but it was a shitload out of a shitload. And they're we can't keep letting them get to into below the free throw line and knocking down these floaters. So
it is just on him as a 7-footer. You got to rebound, man. And same thing, Tatum had the offensive rebound go out of his hands. That turned into points. So it's they missed 9 shots they missed 4 shots and had 3 offensive rebounds in overtime. Can't, and that's why you can't even get it to overtime because overtime is such a volatile.
It's 5 minutes.
1 or 2 bad possessions. That's it. That flips the entire frame, and it's you had the ball up 3 with 20 seconds left. You were at the free throw line with 7 seconds left.
So
those are 2 of your best players in situations where they should theoretically thrive in. Right? Jalen gave you the go-ahead bucket on the baseline despite being 9 for 27, which is horrendous. Right?
It's nice to see him make a
They went 20 of 23 from the free throw line, but missed the one that mattered. It's just it's the type of stuff that happens to teams that are in a rut. That's the only way you can describe it.
That's why it reminds me of the 21-22 season because I remember there being several games where I'm pretty sure that there's a really fucking good team here somewhere, but it's the RJ Barrett game winner. There was a game in Utah where Utah was still good, and
I think the Walker Kessler blocked Grant Williams. Wasn't that one he tried to like go at Walker Kessler or something like that?
Yeah, and so like I remember and that reminds me more of this. Like they're clearly like in their own heads a little bit. But anyway, so role definition is shaky since KP came back, says Moz in the chat. So there was definitely I've been pushing back against like the Tatum usage stuff. But man, there were some times in the fourth quarter and overtime where I'm like, man, Tatum has just been fucking standing in the corner a lot. And it's been a lot of Jalen initiation. I mean, I don't get caught up in the field goal attempts. Like Jalen had 27, Tatum had 21 tonight. That's fine. I mean, like I want probably Tatum to be a little closer than that. But like, it just felt like Tatum was in the corner. Jalen was initiating play after play after play. And
I have to rewatch it. Do you know? Was who was on? Was
Dyson was on Tatum?
So they probably just wanted to avoid that, the ball security. He did have it stripped from him, early in that, and they had that. They struggled against him, attacking him in the November loss. So again, it's not like Jalen didn't find his advantages. It's just execution was not there. And then when it came down to it, it was just too late. I just don't love. I mean, Tatum played 7 minutes of that fourth quarter, had 3 shots, and then he was probably 1 for 4 or 1 for 5 in the overtime.
0 for 3 in the fourth quarter, and then I don't know what he was.
It's just tough because the way that they're playing, they're generating shots that they can make at a better percentage than 28%. And I think honestly, like it feels like cheating to say, but that does feel like the root of everything. Like if they can just shoot 32%, they win. Like be bad, but not horrific. Don't be sub 30% in all of these. Look at their last 7 or 8 losses. Dude, I guarantee you they're sub 30 in 90% of them.
Last 7 games, they're 3-4 win-wise, and they're at 30.9%. That's just fucking God. Like, how is that even possible? Like,
and they're wide open looks.
Dude, the Hauser stuff is like Pritchard almost saved the day again today. And like I can almost live like Jalen and Jason, like Jalen's jump shots kind of just completely abandoned him at the moment. But like Derek 5 for 16. He was he shot better than the overall team 3-point percentage tonight. But like
and he missed 11 of them. Like
Hauser 0 for 5 on threes on some like butt naked, no one even close to him shots. And they just need to make 1 or 2 of those, man. Right. Like you got to make your dunk and make 1 out of 5 threes, please. Right. And the game's over.
Look at his, I feel like I tweeted, it was on I tweeted the graphic out. If you look this entire month of January, they have maybe like 6 losses or something like that. There was one game he went 0 for 1 that they won. But every other game that they've lost, he's made 1 or fewer. Every game that he's made over 1, they've won. So it's like you need those and it's the Tatum and bench or Jalen and bench lineups that it's so crucial that whether it's him or Pritchard or Horford or whoever hits the open safety valve 3. I think when we're looking at their slumps, it's the guys like Hauser missing the wide open threes that feels different, right? Like we've seen Derek go through shooting slumps. We've seen Tatum and Brown, like those you can play around. What really twists the knife is when you don't have Horford playing in a game like this, right? You don't have Porzingis. So now everybody's role and the importance of their execution is even higher. And you're getting 22 bench points, 20 of it coming from one guy with Hauser having a donut. Like those misses, while they feel insignificant at the time, these games are coming down to 2 or 3 made threes a night. Like can you make those 2 or 3 open ones that get you to 33, 34% or 28, 29%?
We're not asking for much.
Like just if you're a 40% lifetime shooter and his misses are like 75% of the way in. Like they're rimming out and it's just like, it feels like a cop-out to say, like, it's just a shooting thing. But, like, if they don't shoot under 30%, they never lose. So that's the bar.
Show me the record of all the teams in the NBA when they shoot 30% or below. they're gonna be sub 500 probably. Like that's just the reality of basketball, the sport of put orange ball in the basket. You need to shoot it in more than your opponent. And like we've been through shooting slumps with every player, but like I can't remember a time that we've had so many guys going through it at the same time. Derek, Jalen, and Hauser in particular. Derek and Jalen, especially as far as like jump shooting goes, like really, really bad. Even Tatum now, he had been kind of like carrying us through some like, and paper macheing over some of the shooting stuff because he'd been so good. But now he's had a couple of games where he hasn't been able to make some threes too. But it's like Hauser, Derek, and Jalen, and specifically Derek and Jalen, if those two guys who are your second and third dudes in field goal attempts are going to be shooting like in the 20s and like low 20s from three, it's going to be difficult to win a lot of games. And to the point about a cop out, because like this point from T in the chat about I don't think it's fair to let them off the hook for only the shooting. So just like mathematically and like not even mathematically, but the way it works is like if you're putting the ball into the basket, then the other team can't get out in transition. So It's just like
and if you're taking care of the ball.
Exactly.
They can't get out in transition.
Yeah, but especially like when you're missing shots, there's more transition opportunities. Like your offense is always going to impact your defense, even if your effort is still high. I thought the defensive effort tonight was pretty good.
Well, I was just gonna say they had 100 points in 4 quarters, something like that.
Yeah.
Like if you close out this game like you should, they don't even break 100. So it's like again, your defense was good enough. I think their ball security in the first half was good enough. They get lazy in the second. They start to get out in transition. Then they start to, get into the paint. I mean, it's another game where they have to figure out they can't be giving up 80, 90% field goals in the paint. And it can't all just be because there's no Porzingis or Al. Like, figure it out defensively. Provide more resistance. Just stay in front of your man. It's just because then on the other end, our guy, Derek can't make a floater. Jalen can't make a little push shot from 3 feet out. So it's not even just the threes. It's like even from twos, they're not even efficient. So it's like no matter what shot they take right now, they just can't seem to make it.
It is brutal, man. Yeah, like it feels like this. Like there's a blockage, whether it's mentally or what. Like maybe the team needs to do a team mushroom trip over the All-Star break and just like
they just need to play. Like I can handle losing if you play well and you just get beat. But
which is kind of what happened today, besides the fucking.
But that's what I mean. That ending is like, no, you need to have the mental. Like, why is it an anomaly to see this team play 4 quarters of basketball until the final buzzer? Like, that is stuff that we are not a young team. This is not their first rodeo. Like all that shit that used to be, they're learning those that they're developing in these situations. There is not a basketball situation that this team and this core has not been involved in. So it's just like at some point you just have to have a base. Like I need to have a baseline expectation that if the Celtics are up 3 with 20 seconds left in the ball, that's a game that they win. Like in order for any of this to work, certain things, I need to be able to assume that you can shoot over 30% from 3, and I need to be able to assume that you can win a game with the ball up 3 with 20 seconds left. Like baseline, that is, I am not asking for a lot, I feel like, on either of those two things. And it's just like they can't find a way to consistently not do those things.
So you said that, right? It's like, this is not a young team. And I've been saying, like, as a fan right now, I'm not going to call myself an analyst, but, as someone like trying to figure out what's going on, you have kind of like 2 choices, it feels like right now. Are we panicking? And I see a lot of people comparing us to the 23 team, which there are worse teams to be than the team that loses in Game 7 to the.
I know, like that's finals. Not a slight. They won 57 games and were a sprained ankle away from the finals.
Yeah.
Like,
so there's like panicking. This team is whatever. Or what I've been saying is like I'm going to trust the team over a 3-year stretch that went to the finals and lost in 6 to the Warriors, won 57 games and made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then followed that up with one of the most historically dominant seasons in NBA history. I find it hard to believe that collection of dudes now doesn't know how to win a game when they're up 3 with the ball, that can't shoot anymore. Like, can't execute in the fourth quarter. I find it hard to believe that group that has such a large sample size, even up to game 20 of this season, we're talking like almost like probably a 300 game sample of a team that is really, really hard to beat. And it's going to be hard for me to panic until we really get to the playoffs. Because, like, I get they're not playing great, but man, good luck beating these guys in the playoffs.
Well, I've seen
it's hard.
I'm certainly with you. I'm not panicked, but I will say the thing that makes me overly concerned is they are in real jeopardy of not hitting 40-20.
Yeah, what are we now? It's like
they need an 11-6 run, and they're about to head out to a 4-game West Coast trip with a back-to-back in LA. You know the Warriors are going to play the best game of their season, right? Yeah. So 11-6, they have not been playing at an 11-6 pace over their last 17 games. If they do not hit 40-20, it will then take a statistical anomaly for them to win the NBA title. So it's like, it's not time to panic, but at the same time, if you don't go 11-6 over your next 17 games, 80 years of NBA history says you are not winning the NBA title. So it's like these games in the big picture don't mean anything until you've done it so often to where now the most important benchmark for any team in NBA history, regardless of who it is, you can make the finals and not hit 40-20. We saw that in 2022. What happened? They lost to the team that hit 40-20.
I was like, did the Warriors hit 40-20 that year?
They hit 40-20 in 2022. The Mavs last year made the finals as a 5 seed. What happened? They lost to the team that hit 40-20. The Nuggets last year made the final, or the year they won it. The Heat made the finals as an 8 seed, lost to the team that hit 40-20. It does not guarantee you win the title, okay? But you need to be able to, like, you cannot win it without hitting it. 11-6, so dropping games against the Raptors, home against the Hawks, the Kings, all because you can't close out a fourth quarter is legitimately putting everything that NBA history says to you need to do to win a title at risk. And that is the level of concern is, again, you win 2 out of every 3, you're fine. But like, this team can't win 2 out of every 3 right now. It's crazy.
I got to be honest, I kind of feel like panicking now after you laid all of that information.
I mean, it's just their reality. Like,
yes, right, but I know that's right? Scary.
Because look at, they can only afford 6 more losses. They have a 4-game road trip. Call that 2-2.
That's kind of could be good for them, honestly. Like, I know, like, the 5 and 7 nights. I can't believe they lost tonight. I keep fucking getting mad because, like, then you only have to go 10 and 7. It's so much easier.
Right, so much easier. So now your theory. Let's say they go 2-2. Right now you're down to what? 9-4. Well, when have they been playing at a 9-4 pace for the last 20-something games?
But what were they now? They're 6-4 in their last 10. So how about I
went to Arizona State. I'm not a math guy. I'm just saying
that's going to be close. If they go 6-4, that's 12-8. That's like right on it, basically. Just do that one more time, and we'll be right there. It's
just like you're getting to the point where if you don't hit 40-20, nothing else matters.
I think there's some people in the chat that are new to this 40-20 thing.
40 so wins.
Please lay it out for us.
Outside
it's a Phil
of
Jackson thing, right?
It's a Phil Jackson mantra. Outside of like the 94 Rockets, the Bucks in the weird, like I don't even know how to count or factor in COVID years. So just like or lockout, like obviously the Spurs didn't do it because it was the lockout year, but like in a normal 82 game season since 1971, whatever, the last 50, 60 years. There's only been like 3 or 4 instances of a team that won the title not winning 40 games before 20 losses. It's like the only take it to the book benchmark that you need. Like, it's the only thing that matters in the regular season until you do it. Once you check that box, like you've accomplished what you need to qualify to win the title. It's like outside of the weird COVID year, it's like every title team in the last 25 years. It's like an insane run. And overall, in the last 50 or 60 years, there's only been two or three teams that have done it.
It's a tricky one. It's like, man, firstly, thank you for explaining that. But it's like, but what if they go like, what if their little run just happens straight afterwards? You know, it's like
doesn't matter.
I know. But
NBA
like 45 and 21.
NBA history says it does not matter. If you don't punch the 40-20 box, then it does not matter what you do from that moment forward.
Did the 23 Celtics get there? The team that lost to the Heat?
They hit it, but they did not make it. So it doesn't guarantee that you make it. You just can't win it without doing it.
Yeah. So and I will say they lost the game tonight, but the game against the Magic, fantastic game. I thought process-wise, they played really well tonight.
Yep,
like
great.
Defensively, they were good. There were definitely some stretches where things weren't great. Jaylen Brown's off-ball defense is like a disaster in general at the moment. But at least I think he's playing hard defensively. He had a great stretch in that Magic game. So I think that they could be trending in the right direction. And if they continue to trend in the right direction, plus Porzingis has been low-key like fucking
he's
balling.
been great.
And like all the starting data numbers with the bad net rating has been not because he's playing bad. It's because Jalen and Derek can't make a shot. And that's why that the starting lineup has not been good. He, over the last 6/4 games, is averaging like 20
exactly
plus
what you
2
need
blocks.
Yep,
on like
exactly.
67% true shooting or whatever it is, 50% from 3, 50% from the field. He's been really good. So he's healthy right now. I think, and like that Warriors matchup, having him healthy is going to be like important. I know we didn't have him in the first one this season. We didn't have him in the game in that they blew the 18-point lead and lost in overtime last year. One of another painful moment in Celtics history. But you're going to have a fully healthy team for the Warriors game. The Lakers and Clippers, like at the Mavs are still won't have Luka, so you're gonna have a pretty good shot there. Like,
but they're still feisty. Like they'll be motivated for the rematch after what happened in their first game. And like again, you have a back-to-back in LA. Those are always tough. The Clippers are playing well, have a good defense. It's just like it's a bad time to drop a game that you had in hand right before.
And the Rockets at home after you get back from the road trip. So
correct.
Next 5 games are hard.
We all know that Steph Curry is going to go. Like the Warriors are going to play the best game of their season. So it's like already you're on an uphill battle. So it's just like that's why making like these blown games since the last West Coast trip, Sacramento, Atlanta, and Toronto are like they really add up when you look at what their schedule looks like.
Yes, you needed to win 2 of those. You can't lose all 3. You just can't. Right. And they did.
And theoretically, and remember, they were a Miss CJ McCollum runner away from losing that game too. So it's not even like they've had one convincing win since they've returned home from their 3-1 West Coast trip. That's insanity.
It's not good.
That's insane.
Not the more we talk about it, the more panicked I'm becoming. So maybe this is a good time to end it. I know Spoonie's excited or he's encouraged after tonight's game process-wise. So we'll be back tomorrow to kind of like break it down a little in depth and talk about the Warriors game. But Greenie, man, I'll get you back on hopefully
next.
After after a win. But yeah, look, the thing I'm just going to keep holding on to is that I know beating this team in the playoffs is going to fucking suck for anyone. I don't care what happens between now and then. They've been too good for too long in the playoffs. Like they might not win the finals, they may not make the finals, but like whoever's going up against them, it's just going to be a bitch. And is it going to be like the 23 run where they end up going 1 extra game too long against the Hawks and 1 extra game too long or 2 extra games too long against the Sixers? Maybe. But if we make it to the conference finals and you're telling me that's where we are, and it could be worse.
I mean, I hear you, but at the same time, going from like 21-5 and 40-20 being a lock to now, like I can't even think of their playoff matchups and playoff series right now because they're like in jeopardy of the most important part of the entire season at the moment. So it's like until they check that box, I'm going to be a little bit tense because again, it won't matter what they do. Like the playoffs aren't going to matter if they don't, reach that check mark. That's just the reality. So.
Yeah, if the season ended today, I wouldn't be feeling that good probably. I'm just kind of like they're going to flip the thing at some point.
But it's not even like a flipping of a switch. Like, what switch do you have to flip to make an open catch and shoot three?
That's what I would love to know. I would love to know.
It's not an effort thing. It's not an energy. It's not like they didn't turn up their effort and energy. It's just like the execution of your system that works. They just can't. Give me a 5-game stretch of consistent execution, and they just have not had a stretch like that since the Marcus Smart loss on December 7th.
Oh, wow.
That was the first fourth quarter collapse that started the, if you remember, Jaren Jackson Jr. went crazy.
Okay, I was confused because Marcus didn't play in that game.
No, but it was the return, the return loss.
Yes.
Jaren Jackson had that huge fourth quarter with all these little push runners. They dropped that game, and that's where things, really started to turn, especially in the fourth. It's so maddening. I mean, we're almost in February. I mean, January is half over. So it's like, what are we doing?
Well, you could be a Detroit Lions fan right now.
That's true. But even still, I probably feel worse about this game tonight than they do. And their season ended.
You think about how tortured they are, and they just had one of the dominant seasons in history, and they just shut their pants in round one. So, or round two, I guess, off the pipe. So it could always be worse, I guess, is my note that I'll leave everybody on tonight.
That is true.
It could always be worse. It could always be worse. Greenie, it's been a pleasure. I'm sure we'll speak to you soon, hopefully after the Celtics have hit. I want it's maybe like a 2-game winning streak,
Listen, I'll take one game, like just one at a time. That's what they need to start straight. Because again, honestly, they came back from this road trip. I looked ahead. I'm like, all right, this should be like a 4-1 stretch. And it was 2-3.
It was not.
You just never know.
It was not a 4-1 stretch. That is for sure. It could always be worse. Everybody, go Celtics next time. Peace.